Welcome to Junior Historians. I'm Darcy, the middle school librarian at the St. Charles Public Library. Joining me is Dr. Steve Smunt from the Historic Preservation Commission. Today, the Junior Historians are exploring the history of the St. Charles Dam and water-powered industries. Dr. Steve, how did water help industry?
Well, water was basically used to power the machinery that operated inside the factories and the mills. And these factories and mills produced all kinds of products. They operated sawmills, they operated flour and grain mills, for example.
That's cool. So how exactly does water power a mill?
Well, water, there's three main things you need to have water power in a mill. You have to have a dam with a raceway. You have to have a wheel or a turbine to be turned by the water, and then you have to have machinery connected to the water wheels. And so what we find in St. Charles, the first dam was built in 1836 by Ira Menard. He built a dam and sawmill. Now the dam was made out of wood planks that spanned the river, approximately the same location as today's current dam. And the wood planks were also connected to logs that were placed into the water. It raised the water level about 4 to 6 feet. And that was enough to allow, when the water falls by gravity, it would have enough force to turn a wheel. So the water was directed through what we call a raceway. And a raceway is like a water channel. And it was directed against a water wheel or against a water turbine. And the water wheel was early water wheels were simply wheels that were turning on a horizontal axle made out of steel or iron, and they had small little buckets attached to them that captured the water as it fell from the height of the dam, and it would turn. Turbines were the same thing, except they were in an enclosed housing. Now on the other end of this axle that was being turned by the water wheel, we have pulleys and other gears that turned different types of axles and pulleys and leather belts that turned machinery, and that operated the factory's machinery and created the products of those factories.
That's really interesting. So does this have anything to do with that?
The turbine was, this is the location of the Butler paper mill that was built in about 1840 and burned down in 1868, and they found this water turbine in the raceway on this side of the river in this approximate location. So we actually think that this may be from the Butler paper mill, but we have to do more investigating to find that out actually.
That's really interesting. You were talking about how the dam was helping in the process of all of this. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Well, I mean, the dam basically is taking the water that falls via gravity, which is a form of kinetic energy, and that kinetic energy of falling water is transferred to the water wheels, which produce mechanical energy. Okay. And this mechanical energy is what drives machinery.
Awesome. So if we're looking at the Municipal Plaza, it seems like that's a really great place to have a mill since it's right next to the dam and the river. Can you tell us a little bit about that site?
Excuse me. Yes, about 1836, Ira Menard built a dam north of Main Street. And on the east side, where the Municipal Plaza is the approximate location of the first sawmill. This was a water-powered sawmill, and if you research water-powered sawmills, you can see all kinds of graphics of how these things were hooked up to the water wheels to saw lumber. And Ira Menard's sawmill operated until about 1866, when it was replaced by a flour mill. Again, a different industry, still using the water wheels. And this flour mill was operated by a Civil War veteran, Major William Conklin. Now Conklin operated this first flour mill until 1877, when it was sold to Mr. Fredenhagen. He operated it as a flour and grain mill. The Fredenhagen mill was destroyed by fire in 1895. So after 1895, another factory with the purpose of Crown Electric Manufacturing Company came forth, and they built a factory on the old foundation of the Fredenhagen flour mill. And they used water power again to run their machinery inside their factory. Now, Crown Electric was originally a two-story building, and then later it became 4 stories and became home to the St. Charles Fixture Manufacturing Company, which made gas and electric light fixtures for homes and factories. And its owner, James B. Horn, made the company slogan was high quality exclusively. Now, unfortunately, this factory burned down in 1929, and there are numerous photographs of this fire in our city and museum archives. Now, until nothing said on this site from 1929 until 1940, and in 1940, the Municipal Plaza was developed and the municipal building was built. And now that building does not use water power.
So if we head west across the river to where Baker Hotel is, what can you tell us about what was there at that area?
Now on the other side of town, on the west bank, there was a flour mill constructed by Abel and Darwin Millington in about 1838, 1840. And Darwin, who inherited his father's estate, sold the mill business to Robert Haynes in 1850. And Robert Haynes named it the Haynes Excelsior Flour Mill. Now, the Excelsior Flour Mill produced product until 1918 when it burned down from a fire, and the site sat vacant until the Hotel Baker was built in 1928.
So last month during our Junior Historians video, we explored the history of the fire department, and it seems like a lot of the city's mills were frequently a source of large fires. Do you know why that is?
Well, my suspicion about the fires is that mills created a lot of grain dust from the smashing of millstones on wheat, a very dusty environment. And even in a factory such as a light fixture factory, of grinding wood, and there was a lot of dust. And without proper modern ventilation, this was a very combustible mixture of air and dust. And there were no electric lights in the 19th century, so they relied on gas lighting or kerosene lighting or candles.
Yeah.
And so all it took was a live fire from a candle or a lamp carelessly exposed to the dust, and that could have ignited an entire wooden building. These buildings were all wood, or their insides were all wood. The interior of the light fixture factory was wood, even though the outside was brick. And it didn't take much to get a major fire going and burnt these to the ground.
I think that makes a lot of sense. So while we're along the river, is the dam that we have now the original one that was built in 1836?
The current dam is a replacement dam. The first dams were built using wood planks and logs. And in 1928, along with the construction of the Hotel Baker, the current dam was poured concrete. So it would have been poured in forms, just like a foundation, and it was built at the same time as the Hotel Baker. Now, the Hotel Baker actually used that dam to turn a water turbine, similar to what's behind us, and the water turbine was connected to generators, and the hotel generated its own electric power. And for several years that was the case. Eventually they disconnected the generators, and the Hotel Baker no longer uses water power to generate electricity.
Well, thank you, Dr. Steve. This has been really interesting to learn about more of St. Charles history. So join me as I head back to the St. Charles History Museum and meet up with Lindsay Judd, the director of the museum, as we head inside and explore more.
Welcome back to the St. Charles History Museum. Here on display in our exhibit, we have a millstone, and this was found in the Fox River along the municipal building. And this was a runner stone, which was used to grind against a larger stone. And you can view this here at the St. Charles History Museum. And don't forget, you can also pick up your grab-and-go kits here at the St. Charles History Museum through the end of the month while supplies last.